You're listening to a special AI-powered training session generated based on my original research and training documents. While the voices you are about to hear are AI-generated, the insights come directly from my verified material.
Welcome to the Epoch Zero Show. Today we are unpacking Module 1.5.3, the Data Exhaustion Challenge 2025-2026.
The core thesis for today is simple, and it's stark. The era of scaling AI by simply scraping the internet for data is over. This means the old rules no longer apply. We're going to cover why that is and what the new rules are for anyone serious about building capable systems. This isn't a future problem. It is the central strategic challenge of right now.
For the better part of a decade, the strategy was just one word: scale. More data, more compute, better models. It was a reliable formula. But that formula had a fatal assumption: that the supply of high-quality data was infinite. We have now hit the bottom of the well.
This timeline from Epoch AI Research isn't a forecast, it's a diagnosis. By 2026, that's today, we have effectively exhausted the supply of high-quality public text data. It's gone. And you can see the trend continues. Image data will be exhausted within 2 years. Video data by the end of the decade. This isn't a speed bump. This is the end of the road for the old way of doing things.
This reality completely breaks the back of what we call Kaplan's scaling laws. Those laws give us a predictable path forward. More data and more compute equals better performance. But that entire framework depends on having more data to feed the machine. We don't. The free lunch is over.
So, if more data isn't the answer, what is? This forces a fundamental pivot in strategy. The game is no longer about volume. It's about curation. The new competitive edge is found in the quality and mix of the data you use. Think back to 2022. The big insight from the Chinchilla paper was that we were under-training our models. We needed more data for the amount of compute we were using. That was true then. But the insight for today, for 2025, is different. It's that the mix of your data matters far more than its sheer volume. Meticulous curation now beats brute force. This isn't just a theory. The proof is in models like 5.4. At only 14 billion parameters, it's a lightweight by today's standards. Yet it performs on par with models many times its size. The reason? It was trained on a small but absolutely pristine textbook-quality dataset. This proves the point. Curation is the new scale.
Now, the logical next question is, if we've run out of human data, why not just have AIs create more data for us? This is the promise of synthetic data. It seems like the perfect solution, but it hides a very dangerous and very subtle trap.
The technical term for this trap is model autophagy. Researchers like Shamailov called it the curse of recursion. When a model is trained on the output of a previous model, it doesn't just learn the information, it also learns the errors. Over generations, these errors compound. The model begins to forget the real world.
The best analogy I've heard is this. It's like photocopying a photocopy. Each copy gets a little fuzzier, a little less distinct. After enough generations, you're left with nothing but a gray smudge. That is model collapse. Does this mean synthetic data is useless? Absolutely not. It just means we have to use it with extreme care, and we must respect the limits. Research has validated a clear threshold for using it safely, a way to get the benefits without triggering collapse. The critical ratio is 70-30. You can augment a data set of real, human-generated data with up to 30% high-quality synthetic data and maintain stable performance. It acts as a helpful supplement, a booster shot. This is the safe zone. But the moment your mix crosses the 50% threshold, decay sets in. Once the model is learning more from itself than from reality, the copy of a copy problem begins. Performance degrades. You must respect the ratio.
So let's connect the dots. Public data is exhausted. Synthetic data has hard limits. This reshapes the entire competitive landscape of AI. Advantage no longer comes from having the biggest model. It comes from having the best data.
So who has the advantage? It's the owners of massive, unique, non-public datasets. Google has our search histories. Meta has the social graph. Amazon knows what we buy. And entire industries like healthcare and finance sit on decades of structured records. This private data is the new strategic high ground. And that leads to the most important question for any leader listening to this. What unique data does your organization possess? Answering that question is the first step in building a modern AI strategy. That is your moat.
But what happens when even proprietary data isn't enough? The final piece of the puzzle is to think beyond training data altogether. The future of progress might not be about finding more data, but about using the data we have far more intelligently.
There are several emerging paradigms here. Active learning, where the model itself identifies what it needs to learn and asks for that specific data. There's curriculum learning, teaching models simple concepts first, just like we teach children. And there's test time compute, spending more compute resources at the moment of a query, not just during training. These are all paths to greater efficiency.
Let's summarize the strategic reality. The playbook that brought us to this moment in AI is now obsolete. We are in a new era that demands a completely different approach. The age of brute force scaling is over.
As a leader, your checklist is this. First, obsess over data quality, not volume. Curation is everything. Second, conduct a thorough inventory of your unique proprietary data. That is your core asset. Third, explore strategic partnerships to gain access to data you don't own. And fourth, use synthetic data carefully. Stay within the safe ratio and relentlessly verify that it's helping, not hurting.
So the bottom line is this. The race is no longer about who has the most compute. The race is about who has the most intelligent data strategy. That is the new game, and that is the challenge for all of us.